some holes into the walls to make it feel more like a home. How could I ever sleep at night? When you left me paralyzed. Trying to keep my head above the waves. Coming out for brighter, better days. And your voices lift me up to let me down. Every single time you come around, I'm making friends who don't know who I am. Trying to turn the hurt into a friend. How could I ever sleep at night? I'm blue dreaming about the better times. Anything to bring me close to you. Anything to take me back to Friday nights. Foggy streets and Christmas lights. Wake me up on Saturday. Grab my hand and float away into the abyss again. And I will always be your friend. So grab my hand, take my hand, I can't do this alone. Friday nights, foggy streets and Christmas lights. Wake me up on Saturday. Grab my hand and roll away into the abyss again. And I will always be a friend. So grab my hand, take my hand, I can't do this alone. Nights, foggy streets and Christmas lights. Wake me up on Saturday. Grab my hand and roll away into the abyss again. And I will always be a friend. So grab my hand, take my hand, I can't do this
What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Lost in Translation.
I'm your host, DJ Gothunk.
I'm DJ GeenLeen.
And I am DJ BlootScoot.
How was y'all's weeks?
My week was busy, and I had and have a lot of quizzes this week, but it's been good. How was yours?
It was good. DJ GeenLeen?
Wow, you really elaborated on that there first, DJ Gothunk. It was good. Wow.
It was
Mine was also kind of stressful because, but I just finished up a test and a quiz today. I did a test over the weekend, but now I'm just kind of hanging out, so should be good.
Someone's
yeah.
going zoomies.
Somebody is going Zoom by
I
our
wonder if our mic will pick that up.
place.
Probably not.
Oh well.
Well, let's just get right into it.
Right into the news. We watched a pretty epic movie.
This week we watched Cidade de Deus, City of God, which is
And
from Brazil.
yes, Brazil.
Had 2 directors, and I am about to get their names.
Well, in the meantime, I'll give a little background because we usually forget for some reason to say what the movie's even about.
Wait,
the
before
movie.
you do, I just want to say that the song you guys listened to before was Classic J Dies and Goes to Hell, Part 1 by Glass Beach.
That is quite the title.
I know.
That's
Quite
such
the
a classic J move. You know what I mean, guys?
Classic J.
Classic J. Golly.
So anyway, back to Lost in Translation.
And we're back. So tell us, DJ Gothunk, have you got the directors' names?
Yeah, Fernando Meirelles and Katie Lund. But
Very epic.
it's in Portuguese.
It is in Portuguese.
So it's not Katie, it's like
Yes.
Katia.
Katia. Which is interesting because we discussed it, but some people might not realize that Brazil, the main language in Brazil is actually Portuguese, not Spanish, because they were colonized by the Portuguese when the European countries were sending colonists over. And so they retained that as their native language instead of the predominantly Spanish-speaking South America. But yeah, it is kind of similar to Spanish, though. There's a lot of very similar words and pronunciations, but that's because Portugal is literally right next to Spain. So a lot of their culture diffused together, I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
What was this movie about, DJ GeenLeen?
what was this movie about? Okay. It was I felt like it was long. It wasn't as long as I felt, but it felt like there's just a lot of stuff going on. Every time I thought that like maybe we were nearing the end, something else would happen to be like, oh wow, dang, this is like taking off. But I definitely enjoyed it for sure.
Did
So
you think it was long in a good way, or did you think it was?
it wasn't long in a bad way. It was just kind of I would think that okay, I think they're trying to wrap something up here, and then something like either crazy or interesting would happen. I'd be like, oh wow, there's still a lot left of this story to tell, and it was interesting because it's like there's more. Oh, there's more. There's more. Dang. So it definitely felt like there was a lot of stuff packed into it, which was cool.
Yeah, because I've run into that experience where there's a shorter movie that feels really long, but it feels long in a good way. Like it like it captures your attention and everything.
You
And
look
then
back and you realize that oh wow, it really wasn't that long, but so much happened.
yeah,
Ah,
and then there are movies that are short, but they feel like a long time.
yeah.
I'm trying to think of one, but I can't because I probably don't like
Oof.
it.
Well, this movie
But
basically.
yeah, I think this one was. It felt really long. It felt like it was. I mean, it was pretty long. It was 2 hours and 10 minutes, but
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
not that long.
Not too long. Yeah. But anyway, it follows this kid whose name is Rocket, and it's kind of a story of as he's coming. I think we could classify it as a coming of age story. And it starts with him as a young. Well, it actually starts with him at like the end of the movie, and then it does the classic rewind back to the beginning.
Yeah, this movie has so many different.
Yeah.
Like it has all the storytelling conventions.
Oh yeah, for
Like
sure.
non-linear structure, narrator who like flashes back.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, we're not there yet.
Yes,
It's all done
a
in
lot
a really
of
good way.
I
Oh,
bet you're
yeah.
wondering how I got in this situation.
for real.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah. There's a lot of that stuff going on. But I thought it was very good. I didn't think that was like a bad thing. It was just kind of funny. Of oh hey, I've seen kind of stuff similar to this or same.
Absolutely.
Like-
I really like the movie. I think it was the best one we've watched so far. And
Really? Wow. Would you put it above Parasite?
I think that I would.
Wow. I would put it very high. I don't know if I would. Because we all rated the last movie we watched, which was
Birds of Passage.
yes, Birds of Passage.
We all rated an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, 8 out of 10. So where would you rate this one, DJ BlootScoot?
I call that a 9.5 out of 10.
Wow. Very high praise. I think I would give it an 8.5. I liked it more than Birds of Passage, but I don't think I can give it a 9. I don't. It wasn't a movie that had me absolutely on the edge of my seat and like completely engrossed entirely in it. It was good, but it wasn't that level. What about you, DJ Gothunk?
I think on Letterbox I did an 8 out of 10, but that's because I can't really do the 8.5. That's out of it's like
It's
with
just
stars.
solid numbers.
But I think I don't know. It's hard for me to say if it was better or worse than the last movie because they're very different to me. I think I enjoyed this movie a lot. Like it hit a lot. Like all the characters were really really fun and like really well developed and very well acted. It was just like everything of it was very charismatic. So I ended up loving like most of it. And but at the end of it I was like I want to see more even though most of the characters are dead.
Yeah, no kidding. There's almost every single main character or important character is dead by the end. So don't get too attached to anybody. But real quick, let's say what this movie is actually about because we haven't done that.
Got it. Oh, well, it's a coming of age story set in like the slums of
Rio de Janeiro.
the city it's Rio de Janeiro. Okay.
Yeah.
And the slums are called the City of God, I believe.
Because Rio de Janeiro is
It's like very heavily
yeah, and it has the statue of Jesus. So I think it's a pretty heavy religious center.
Deus.
The Rio de Janeiro is notably surrounded by many low-income slums called favela. And one of these slums is called Cidade de Deus, the City of God. It is a specific slum within Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
Yes. And yeah.
So yeah.
I think that was I
Oh,
I
and
remember they
so,
kind of talked about that when they were doing like the Olympics in Rio in 2016. Weren't they talking
'cause
about how like
they were bulldozing
yeah,
the lower income
at
neighborhood.
lower income, and there was also some controversy around like does Rio deserve to be nominated? Because that was right around the time when it came out that the Olympic Committee had been bribed by countries to like have it in their country or whatever. I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Not the best place for everybody.
Yeah.
But it takes place in the slums of Rio de Janeiro, and it's a coming of age story about this kid, but it also is he's also basically telling his story through the stories of other people
Mm-hmm.
who are crime lords within the slums, and so it's
Yeah.
also a crime movie.
It's also a drug movie.
Oh yeah.
Like Birds of Passage, because the main person he's kind of telling it through, because I think I read when I was reading the description of the movie, it was following like two boys and their like development through the crime and slums of the City of God. I'm pretty sure that the like primary antagonist, Lil Dice or Lil Zay, he is kind of like supposed to be kind of like the second character, and he's the main antagonist. And in a lot of ways, he's a foil. Well, not in a lot of ways. He definitely 100% is a foil to Rocket, because he's like very violent and he's a drug lord, whereas Rocket's like peaceful and he wants to be a photographer. But Rocket basically tells the story of Lil Zay's rise to power and then the subsequent gang war between his like weed and cocaine drug empire and another drug empire within the City of God. So kind of similar to last week's Bridge of Passage in the whole like.
No, it wasn't.
Well, in like the drug war sense,
They're
it's somewhat similar.
Except there wasn't. Their dynamic is also very different.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's two rivals. It's not a supplier.
Family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so it was very exciting the whole time.
Yes.
Very lively. Like a lot of the culture is infused in it. I really like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Did you guys have any standout scenes? There's a scene I want to talk about in particular that I have some like trivia sort of about.
Go for it.
But there's the scene, it's probably the most famous scene from this movie, is the scene where they shoot the kid in the foot.
Oh yeah.
Because that's I've seen clips of that one before. And the kids who were like getting shot in the foot in the movie, the acting coach for them like basically psychologically tortured him so that he would give that reaction. And if you watch the reaction, it's like it's such a like, I mean, it's a great performance, but there's like this kind of oddly sinister nature behind it.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's such a dark scene in that.
Such a good scene.
It's
But
it is a good scene, but it's hard to watch just
yeah,
because of like how brutal it is. That
it
scene in
is.
particular, because it's this guy who's just like, oh god. There's a lot of that too. I mean, it doesn't shy away from like the brutality of like young kids dying.
Yeah,
Because a lot of movies will be, if there's like a young kid, it's like they don't they don't do anything to
yeah.
hurt the kid or whatever.
Should his foot getting shot. Like,
Yeah. But and like other scenes too of just like young kids just
Mhm.
dying for this gang war that they had like no particular stake in, nothing to win out of it. They just like maybe they were angry or they just wanted to, fight or whatever, and they paid the price for it, which is truly sad. But yeah.
So did you guys have any? There were a lot of scenes in this that were just like the whole Benny's party.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that might have been a standout scene for me because Benny's party was very. Benny is, for our audience, is Lil Dice, which is the main antagonist's partner in crime, kind of. But he's not like Lil Dice. Lil Dice is a sociopathic killer. He's very ruthless, and Benny's kind of the opposite of him. He's very, he's a lot more easygoing. He's constantly talking Lil Dice down. He's constantly, everybody loves him. He's very hip. He's got like westernized kind of clothes on all the time, and he's called the coolest hood in the City of God. And they don't really call them gangsters; they call them hoods in this movie.
Yeah.
And so he decides that he wants to get out of the business because he just can't. Has a girlfriend, and he's like, I'm going to get away with my girlfriend. I'm going to go live somewhere else, and I can't do this drug trade anymore. And so he throws a massive like discotheque kind of party thing. And there's like the whole time.
It has like pretty much everybody from. It shows like all the different cultures from Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah. And it's really
And
cool
it's very
because it
exciting.
shows like how everybody respects him so much because he managed to get like so many people to come to it.
And there's
But like the whole
like,
time you can
mounting-
feel like
yeah,
there's like a sense of dread going on behind it, even though there's
like
this
mounting tension.
Yeah,
'cause you're
exactly.
like, oh,
And it feels like the feel that you get as an audience member of like the tension and the dread kind of slowly growing is very different than the scene on what is shown because there's so much like partying and happiness and like joy going on screen that makes it very very different than what you feel when you watch it. What about you, BlootScoot? You got one?
I would say, I don't know. I found the First, the hold up at the motel was very
Yeah.
interesting and pivotal to me, and I like that it wasn't revealed as super pivotal until later,
Mm-hmm.
and like nobody knew what was going on
Hmm.
and what was going on with Wolf Z until it was too late.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I remember I was like, who? I was like, who killed everybody at the motel? And then DJ Gothunk, I think you said like, oh, I think the police killed him. But then later it's revealed that it was Lil Zay.
Was
And
just killing
it's like
for no reason.
because yeah. And so I was like, I think it might be Lil Zay, but I didn't say anything because I was like, there's no way. This kid's like a 10-year-old kid. He wouldn't have just gone in and shot like a whole bunch of people. But then, like 30 minutes later, they just flash back and he just shoots a whole bunch of people as like a 10-year-old child. And it just shows like how messed up he is from the world that he lives in the slums. Which I feel like we could talk about that of like how the life in the slums is just not good at all.
I would also like to say I also like the scene where Lil Dice, whatever it's called, becomes Lil Z. He gets his name changed, and there's like a I don't remember who the man was. Like, was he a
He was some
priest
type
or
of
something?
shaman, I think.
Yeah, shaman. He like claimed him Lil Z, and I thought um that was interesting. I think it marks another like transformation in the character. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I yeah.
For sure. I agree with that.
I have a question for y'all. Do you think that this movie is a tragedy, or would y'all classify it as something else, or maybe just not really fitting under that sort of classification system?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. I would say, I'm not 100% sure how I'd answer it, but I would say that there's a lot of tragic elements to it. Like we said,
Mhm.
pretty much every main character dies. And at the end of the movie, you kind of don't really feel like anything's really changed. It just kind of feels like, okay, all the leaders are dead, the gang war's over, Carrot's in jail.
The run's taken over.
But then
That's a very
immediately
last
after
part.
that, these little like 12 to 13-year-old kids are like, we're going to take over the whole slum. We're going to kill anybody who stands in our way. Let's make a book. You know how to write? Okay, write these guys' names down. We're going to go kill them and take over the business. And it really feels like everything that was fought for of like trying to, wipe out the other person's drug trade and, whatever in the slum. And, a lot of them have died. A lot of them been thrown in jail. All this stuff has, been shaken up. And in the end, it's just going to go right back to the way it was of more drug wars and more gang wars, and it's kind of sad in that sense of like it doesn't feel like there was a positive note at the end. It was just kind of like another day, another gang war.
I don't know. I don't know if it's not all sad though, because then you have the main character like Rocket. He gets off.
Yeah.
He gets presumably he gets out of the city of God by like pursuing his dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So he's that's kind of hopeful in that sense.
Yeah,
I
for
don't know.
sure.
What do you mean by tragedy, BlootScoot?
Well, like, I guess not very specifically anything. Just like I kind of connect it to Shakespeare's tragedies, how they were
Mhm.
classified as conventions. I think that it has a lot of some of the conventions. Like, I will compare it to the end of Hamlet. The everyone dies in the end, and the events of the play or movie result in sort of the end of the world as we know it. Like, things have
Hmm.
changed a lot, but maybe not for the better.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. That's sort of what I was going for.
Gotcha.
I
And
hadn't
I
thought
think y'all
about it
were.
like that.
Yeah, I
That's
think that's a really good question. Yeah, I'll stick with there's a lot of tragic elements, but I don't know if I'd make it a tragedy. Or I would classify it as a tragedy.
Uh-huh.
Hmm. Well, we probably need to wrap it up pretty soon. Do we have any final thoughts? BlootScoot?
We could talk about the unless DJ BlootScoot has some trivia, maybe we could talk about the
Oh, not really. No.
Yeah, there's a couple on here.
It's like, what?
Go for it.
What? Oh. I guess they called there was an arms dealer supplier almost, and they called him Uncle Sam, and he dealt AR-15s, which are apparently quite rare in Brazil.
They're not rare up here.
No, they're not rare up here.
And then Brazil is the largest Portuguese-speaking nation by far, more populous in Portuguese speakers than all of the total other total Portuguese speakers combined. And Portugal is the fourth largest Portuguese-speaking nation.
Oh shoot!
That's really interesting. I wonder
You
what
know
the other, what 2 and 3
three
are.
They are Angola and Mozambique.
Huh.
Huh?
Interesting.
In Africa.
Wow. Yeah, those are in Africa.
Okay.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Well, I really enjoyed this movie.
Me
And
too.
it'd been on my watch list for a while, so I'm glad that I got to finally watch it.
Yeah, it was very good.
And I would say check it out, definitely.
Yeah, I think. I mean,
No
we all
matter who
rated
you
it very high. And we've rated pretty much all of them very high, but
Yeah,
for
I only
sure.
pick good movies. Oh, next week on our plate, we're going to Mexico.
Mexico.
We went a little south, and then we're going back. We're going north to Mexico, and we're watching Roma by
Roma.
Alfonso Cuarón. See you next week.
See you
See you
next
next
week.
week. Bye bye.